Two words ring true for all of us in the automotive service space: the phones. When we hear those words, instantly we all sigh. Because as much change as our industry has seen, we still get an overwhelming amount of calls. No need to sigh, though. That's where a good BDC comes in handy, doesn't it? I know the team at Traver Connect personally, and these guys get it. And they can help you build your service BDC. Or you can use their team to catch the calls you miss from their well-trained team of agents, or have them make outbound calls and set new appointments. Give Traver Connect a call today. As they say, revenue doesn't leave a message at the beep. TraverConnect.com. Dynatron Software is the premier provider of automotive fixed operations, data analytics, business intelligence, and pricing optimization. We are changing the way that automotive dealerships look at their service department profitability and revenue streams. We are laser focused on profit management for fixed operations and uncovering hidden opportunities for our clients. DynatronSoftware.com. F&I Direct is a company comprised of experts on F&I, reinsurance, digital showroom workflows, and much more. They help fix and improve your processes and guarantee results. If you're interested in finding out how you can increase your profit on every unit sold without giving up any of the money you're already making, visit GuaranteedDealerProfits.com. Again, that's GuaranteedDealerProfits.com. You can schedule a free strategy call and start becoming more profitable this month. So don't wait. Best-selling author, Navy SEAL, leadership coach. Brent Gleeson coming up on the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast. All right, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast. Today, our guest is Brent Gleeson. He's the founder and CEO of TakingPoint Leadership. He is also a Navy SEAL and has a brand new book out called Embrace the Suck, as well as a best-selling book, Taking Point. Brent, welcome.
Dave, thanks so much for having me. It's an honor and pleasure to be on the show.
Excellent. So let's, I guess, give everybody a little introduction on who you are and how you wound up writing books about leadership.
Sure. As a brief backstory, I grew up in Dallas, Texas, did my undergraduate education at Southern Methodist University and earned degrees in finance and economics, spent a little time at Oxford University in England as well. So upon graduation, I actually took a job as a financial analyst with a global firm based out of Dallas, Texas. Now, during that time, I had a very close college friend of mine, a fraternity brother who was a year behind me in school. He was, in fact, one of these young men who had a lifelong dream, a passion, a vision of one day joining the Navy after graduation and at least attempting to be accepted into the notorious SEAL training pipeline. Not an easy accomplishment in and of itself, much less successfully navigating the course. So I thought that was obviously very admirable, a call to serve. Now, keep in mind, this was several months before 9/11. So, a little bit of a different environment when it comes to the concept and mindset around military service. Right. And so he and I actually started training together. So for me, it was just a way to stay fit, have an accountability partner, because I knew he was training for something very strenuous. And then, of course, in turn, help a friend prepare for his arduous journey ahead. And so by nature of that training regimen, we started spending a lot of time together and then having a lot of dialogue about, the history of the Naval Special Warfare community, the culture, the mindset, the leadership capability of everyone in the organization. And that piqued my interest. So I started reading books about our history and our forefathers from the underwater demolition teams in World War II to how we essentially cut our teeth as a premier assault force in Vietnam. And long story short, that growing fascination coupled with the somewhat boring nature of my entry-level financial analyst position led me to the culmination of a decision to leave the pivot tables and spreadsheets for another time engage in a little purposeful suffering. At least that's what I call it now. And, basically give to a cause greater than myself. So I decided to leave my job and join him on his journey, which then became my journey as well. We then very rapidly moved to Crested Butte, Colorado, where we trained for an additional 6 months for about 10 to 12 hours a day at very high altitude, about 10 to 11,000 feet, to prepare both mind and body for what is arguably the most challenging special operations training and selection program out there. And then early 2000, joined the Navy and headed out here to San Diego to begin our journey. By the grace of God, I made it through the training program, was assigned to SEAL Team 5. 9/11, interestingly and horrifically, occurred right between two of those blocks of training. Just for the listener, viewer, I'll explain how that works. It's roughly a 16 to 18 month training pipeline, depending. It flexes a little bit on how we shift our training involvement. But you start with BUDS, of course, an acronym, stands for Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL. That's 6 months. Typically, if you see documentaries or things in the movies, they're reflecting that portion of training. Hell Week is the 5th week. That's where you read everybody out. So you really weed an entire 200-person class down to 30 in 5 weeks, and then you carry on through the training. And then you go to SQT, or SEAL qualification training, which is the advanced portion. Then you go to jump school and language schools and all various sorts of advanced schools. So these days, the guys really hit the ground running when they get to a team with a lot of qualifications. So that week between BUDS and SQT was when 9/11 happened. So that really changed the trajectory, the course of, and the culture of the military in its entirety, but also especially the special operations community being at the tip of that spear. So I was assigned to SEAL Team 5. Soon thereafter, rumors of conflicts in Iraq were spinning up, and my troop, or we called it a task unit back then, essentially 2 platoons and various support elements. So about 40 SEALs and a couple dozen support elements. We were actually the first SEALs into Iraq in early 2003 to perform what we call capture or kill missions, essentially hunting down the terrorists on deck of cards or blacklist or what have you. And did several combat deployments, a lot of time in Iraq, some time in Africa. And I had, going into it, not had the mindset of doing it as a career. Obviously, I knew that anything could change. And I decided to stick to my plan. Back then, in hindsight, the mindset was like, well, these conflicts could never possibly go on as long as they have now. And well, here we are. So, full transparency, I do carry a little bit of guilt, for lack of a better phrase, for transitioning when I did. And I should have fought more, given more, or supported the cause longer. So, I'm on the board of the SEAL Family Foundation now. I mentor guys into and through BUDS and the SEAL program. That's kind of how I continue to serve. But transitioned out, went to grad school, and then dove headfirst into the world of entrepreneurship, which arguably has about the same failure rate as SEAL training. Somewhere along the line, I picked up this taste for calculated risk, and built and sold a couple companies. My current company is TakingPoint Leadership, or a leadership and organizational development consulting firm. The inspiration behind this organization is that with those first 2 companies and just, with studying and being a student of leadership, a student of entrepreneurship and of business, I found a passion not necessarily for the industries that my companies previously have been in, but a passion for building great organizations, for studying culture and how to align, behavior and mindset with the strategy necessary to achieve desired business outcomes. Understanding what really drives profitability and growth in an organization as it relates to leadership, engagement strategies, aligning the culture with what you're trying to achieve from a result standpoint. And so after my second company, the first strategic move was to write my first book, Taking Point, which was designed to be basically the foundation of the principles to build a company and team around. And then here we are.
Well, that's a long journey in 5 minutes. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And certainly I'm sure I speak for everybody listening that you need not hold any guilt back for not serving more. You gave more than most people give for their country. So we thank you for your service. I have a son who is in Afghanistan now, private security. He was in the Army, but he's been doing private security about 10 years now. So
well, thank you for his and your family service.
Thank you. It's as you said, nobody would have expected something like this to go on this long. It's amazing, but So I read in an article or a short article in Forbes where you had talked about blending work and life, and keeping that balance. In my coaching program, I just spoke last week to the people in my coaching program about how there really is no actual balance or
Right.
not a real balance, but that it's a matter of over time achieving some sort of semblance of a good family life and a good work life.
Right.
And so what do you feel are some of the keys to finding that balance? Although balance doesn't exist, but at least that right blend.
Yeah, it's a great question and a more relevant question now over the past 10 or 11 months than it's ever been before. I call it work-life integration as opposed to work-life balance. Mm-hmm. And I remember that came from one of our consulting clients. We work with organizations all over the world. We were doing a leadership development course, and one of the guys in the course who oversaw a specific region for this major medical device company used the word integration, and I was like, "Wow, that's interesting." I was like, "I'm going to use that. I'm stealing that from you." And but it really resonated because, to your point, that there's not a balance. There's not one or the other. It's intimately connected, and especially now, amidst COVID and all the other things going on in the world, and working remote, i.e., working from home, for many of us, that balance and that integration is now more important to manage than ever before. One of the things we've seen is this, and we've kind of worked with our clients on leading and managing remote teams and work from home best practices, especially when it comes to meeting etiquette and balance and wellness practices and mental health, where a lot of times, we dove into this digital transformation. We got to adjust. We got to adapt. Next thing you know, we're on Zoom like for 12 straight hours. You realize you haven't eaten lunch. You didn't work out. You haven't interacted with the family, and you haven't taken any short breaks, and you're burned out. The term Zoom fatigue, which is like now a household key phrase, unfortunately, is a real thing. And pre-COVID, of course, that balance, that integration is important. But I kind of want to touch on it in the context of our current environment, because it's not going anywhere. People need to put away the mindset and the idea, and I think most have, of when this is all over. We were saying that a lot, 6 months ago, or when things go back to normal. We were saying that a lot at the beginning. There's a lot of permanency, that, and frankly, a lot of good things too, that are forcing us. Adversity in many ways, with the right mindset, forces innovation. It forces reassessment. It forces adaptation, creativity, and really transformation ultimately, and how we think about our work, our life, how those things intimately connect, our relationships, how we interact with our kids, our coworkers, our peers, how we think about fitness and wellness activities. All those things have to be top of mind now, especially because we've been forced down this path that a lot of us have never done before and aren't used to. So a lot of those simple tips, it's just about discipline and following through, is making sure you have, these aren't new tips, but making sure you have good sleep patterns, eating clean, not overindulging in self-medication when it comes to alcohol and things like that. Having a balance there, making sure you make time every single day for some type of wellness activity. It doesn't have to be distance running or hardcore workouts, but meditation, yoga, stretching, something that is good for helping us manage stress and anxiety. So those things are all important, but also, leveraging and taking advantage of this time to spend a little more time with the kids, a little more time with their spouse or significant other. I was on the road literally, especially during the busy seasons of what we do in consulting and speaking, every single week. And we're trying to find a way to get me off the road, and all we needed was a little global pandemic. So I feel partially responsible.
Yeah, there you go. That's all you needed, was something little to get you off the road for a bit.
Yeah.
The 2020 was all about how you view obstacles in your life, right? It was, obviously there were some massive changes happening around, and a lot of industries that experienced a lot of change, but like you said, there was a lot of good that came from that. There were a lot of people who looked at that obstacle as an opportunity to rethink their business and reform their business, or to completely change their business into something else. And there were others who succumbed to the changes and couldn't get through that. And so what do you find are what do you find that the organizations that can make that change, can make that transition? What do you find are some of the similarities that they all have?
Yeah, it's interesting, and even seeing some highlights on the news and things like that of how individuals or small businesses have pivoted quickly, where where a person loses their job and within a week they're fulfilling their dream of being an entrepreneur and
Right.
being successful at it. That is the core tenet of a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, which I talk about in the beginning of the book. A growth mindset is one of the core pillars of resilience, where you see opportunity amidst the chaos. You see a setback as not just acceptable, but critical for navigating that meandering path towards growth, enlightenment, wisdom, and success, however we choose to define it. But being in the consulting space, it's interesting. And obviously, we're not immune to this. We've had to digitally transform, adopt new technology, and rethink our revenue streams and our priorities and how we approach our clients and marketing strategies, of course. But being in the consulting side and working with our existing and some of the new clients we've brought on, we've been very blessed during this time. It's interesting to see the organizations that really get it and that have been quite successful, frankly, in this rapid transformation. First and foremost, it takes me back to all the research I did for my first book, which is about leading through change. It's about organizational change and transformation, essentially a more modern take on the 21st century organization and how they navigate constant change. Well, this was a pre-COVID book. Now those principles still ring true now more than ever. And when you see organizations that get it, that are successful at change initiatives, and most research, and this is not me, but McKinsey, Deloitte, all the research comes back the same. Usually, it's about 2/3 of macro and micro change initiatives in an organization either fail or fall significantly short of meeting their intended objective. And usually, that's not because it wasn't a good idea. It's behavioral. It's because there's a lack of buy-in. Leadership misalignment, communication strategies not successfully rolled out, not enough consistency when it comes to communicating the why and the vision behind the winning outcome of whatever this change is going to be. Because typically any type of change, and we're all experiencing this now, comes with a little pain, a little suffering, sometimes more work on top of the work we already have. So there's competing priorities that have to be navigated. But the organizations that are successful at it very quickly develop a vision that can be easily digested by the majority of people in the organization. They have change evangelists, and not just senior leaders, but people in the middle and even front lines of the organization who are more quickly bought into the change than others. There's a continuum, of course. The senior people who are leading the change initiative are already more quickly bought in because they've had more time to digest, think, and design the strategic plan. Whereas then you go a couple layers deep down the echelon of the chain of command, and you're obviously going to have lower levels of buy-in just because the trickle down doesn't typically happen as successfully. But the organizations that do it right have a great vision, a great strategic plan. When they develop that plan, they involve all or the majority of the most appropriate people in designing that plan, which accomplishes two things. One, you have as much ground intelligence as possible from the best minds in the organization or the people who are closest to the customer or the closest to the product. And then you're gaining buy-in through a large group of people in the organization because they help design the plan. Then you have a larger group of evangelists who, to communicate both through formal and informal channels what the changes are all about, or how we're dealing with COVID, or how we're pivoting to this new revenue stream or this new product, or we got to downsize a little bit, but here's why. Here's the painful things we're going to do. Here's why it's going to be okay. And so that buy-in is critical. The communication strategy is critical, and the organizations that get it do that well. But then it really comes with follow-through and celebrating and designing quick wins so that people can see and touch and feel the progress towards the new outcome or the transformation initiative, or how large or small it is. And then comes the combating what I call change fatigue, because any type of change initiative or navigating COVID and things like that takes a little longer, and there's more significant hard and soft costs than we typically anticipate. So even the initial adopters start to get a little exhausted with how long it's taking, or not seeing as many tangible results. So that's where some of those resilience principles come into play, and really seeing it through, having the passion, the energy, and the desire to keep forging ahead, keep as many people in the organization passionately connected to driving that outcome. And those are just some fundamentals of organizations that succeed at change, even in some of the most adverse times.
Yeah. And so you had just mentioned that the evangelizing some of the people, and that was actually one of the, I wrote evangelize change as when I was looking through. That was one of the things that jumped out at me, because obviously if you can start to do that, you get a lot more power behind you, right? To actually get the change implemented. The consistency part of it. So on the automotive side, in a fixed operations department, the service and parts department, that is where I see the biggest area where people fail. So they get the coach, the trainer, whoever it is that comes in there for a week, 2 weeks, and they're all about it. It's going to be awesome. And a month down the road, they're like, I've already told these guys 3 times that they should just be doing this. And change never really happens that way, right? I mean, you're doing stuff over and over and over again until you're bored, and then you're saying it 15 more times. You have to have that.
You're saying it enough when you feel like you're being so annoying that you want to choke yourself out. But also not just saying it. Like I'm telling them this over and over and over again. Got to do it this new way. Got to do it this new way. It needs to be a two-way conversation. Like we have this model that we teach our clients. It's an acronym, of course, called ADKAR, but it's a model for gaining buy-in for change. And one of those tools is make sure it's a two-way conversation. So you're not just talking to the person, telling them the new way to doing things all the time, but especially your frontline contributors, making sure they have a voice and they can, ask why, gain clarification, and that use those opportunities to, further connect them to what the long-term positive outcome is going to be. Most organizations don't go down a change path to make the organization worse, so typically. So and it's frustrating for people, especially people, let's say frontline contributors who maybe weren't necessarily brought into the conversation when it came to here's the new way. And many of them, especially with tenure and subject matter expertise, hey, they might have some good opinions around what may work and what might not work. Maybe the new path, that's the way, either way, but maybe there's a variance in how you can do it. But having a two-way conversation as opposed to just continually talking at them is a good way to continue to slowly gain that buy-in from the later adopters, or what I call the fence sitters. The people like, well, let's wait and see. This didn't work last time. So yeah,
that's a good way to put it. The fence sitters. I like that, because that's a good visual on what a lot of people are in an organization as you try to roll out some of that change. And that's kind of the difference between somebody who's just a boss and a leader, right? The boss is the person that's just sitting there telling, you've got to do it this way, got to do it this. Why am I doing it this way? Because the guy above me told me to do it this way. So you got to do it this way, and not giving them that why or or even the what of, what will change when we do this. They've got to be in that conversation. Like you said, that's a big part of being the leader and not just a boss, is actually.
That's why I talk a lot about the difference between the disciplines of leadership and management. They're very different in many ways, especially when it comes to change. The manager is executing, the strategy and tactics of the plan for initiating the change. They're ultimately accountable for making sure certain things get done. Whereas, it's the leader's job to not just help design the vision, but communicate that vision, connect people to it behind that shared sense of purpose, and help people see, the winning outcome. That's leading change. Whereas, that's why I don't really like the term change management, because that's only one small, cog on the change wheel.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about your new book. What journey is this going to lead people down as they go?
So essentially, the book is titled "Embrace the Suck: The Navy SEAL Way to an Extraordinary Life." I'll touch first on the title, because you'd be always like, oh, that's a catchy title. What does that mean? I think I get it, but what does that really mean? So, the term "embrace the suck," it was born in the military, definitely adopted in the ranks of not just special operations training pipelines, but just in the lifestyle in general. And basically, it means, look, the battlefield, and you could use the term battlefield figuratively or literally. The battlefield is tough. It's hard. There's obstacles. Don't just accept it. Lean into it. Take stock of your current situation and develop a plan to navigate those inevitable changes and obstacles and the stress and anxiety. So moving intentionally, being intentional in the expansion of your comfort zone. So moving more quickly from the bunker of normal human emotion when adversity strikes, of the surprise, the anger, the depression, and hopefully eventually, then the rationalization, then hopefully eventually the acceptance and the ability to move forward. So moving more quickly through that natural progression and taking stock of your situation, focusing on what is in your control, an immediate sphere of influence, developing a plan around that, and then stepping back onto the battlefield of life. The inspiration of this really came from what we do in our leadership development courses, because as we know, you can't enhance the performance and outcome of a team unless you enhance the mindset, behavior, attitudes, and actions of the people on the team. And so I thought, well, it could be interesting to explore a personal transformation, a narrative. And going into the project, first of all, I had no idea 2020 was suck so bad. So selfishly, the timing of the book is quite nice, but in all sincerity, not making light of the horrors that many people have gone through, the loss of businesses, the loss of life. But in all seriousness, I hope the book is a source of inspiration. I've gotten phenomenal feedback from people who've been battling cancer, or people who've lost their businesses, or things like that, where it has been a source of inspiration, and the models in the book have been great tools for them, to use to develop better plans, or debrief with themselves better, to be in that constant state of improvement and take a different look at sort of the reality of the world around them. So I went out and started looking at what is this self-help genre. I've never read any self-help books before, so I found, obviously, it's one of the most popular genres of books out there, and it's like a multi-billion-dollar industry, so to speak, when it comes to self-improvement, and books and things like that being one of the top revenue drivers within that industry. And I found a lot of obviously great books, really interesting reads, but not really for me a lot of actionable books where it really gives you tools to use. Really interesting reads, great storytelling, but not a lot of, but then of course on the other side, a lot of fluffy, happy, self-talk stuff that I don't connect with. A lot of people do, which is fine. So I wanted to create something that was, falls within that genre, but a little grittier, a little more in your face, a little more tough love, but also actionable when it comes to what we can do. And then of course, sprinkling in some humor in there as well. So it's, a fun read and a quick read, but that's kind of where the inspiration of the book came from. And then of course I was thinking, a book about resilience, who to write the foreword. And then of course the light bulb went off, and I had my, friend, former teammate, and Bud's classmate, David Goggins, whom your listener viewers will probably, almost all of them will know who he is, retired SEAL, world-renowned ultra athlete. I figured it'd be great for him to kick the book off with a gut punch of a foreword.
Absolutely. When I told my 14-year-old son that I was interviewing you tonight, and no offense to you, he did not know who you were, but
that doesn't surprise me. My 14-year-old barely,
But I said, well, he wrote this new book, Embrace the Suck, and the foreword's written by David Goggins, and the eyes kind of lit up a little bit, and we were sitting at the top of the table, and my wife went, "Who's David Goggins?" And he goes, "Crazy."
Hey, if people buy the book just for the foreword, I'm okay with it.
Exactly. Well, Brent, this has been an awesome conversation. So definitely some actionable things in here for the listeners. Where is the best place for them to find you?
My company website is takingpointleadership.com. On social media, professionally, I'm on LinkedIn, as you know. I'm on Instagram, so Brent_Gleeson, and I am on Twitter as well. The book, of course, is available on all online retailers, the Amazons and Barnes and Nobles of the world, and many of the brick and mortar bookstores and local bookstores as well.
Awesome. Get all that linked up into the show notes. Again, thank you for being with us. This was a great conversation. And
thanks so much.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, everybody. That was Brent Gleeson, Navy SEAL, best-selling author, and CEO. Unbelievable conversation. Some great takeaways there for you to take into your life and your career to help make things better. Keep listening to the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast. We are grateful for you taking the time to spend with us. Please share this podcast with a couple of friends and ask them to share it with a couple of friends. You can find us on Apple Podcast, on Stitcher, on Spotify, all your major podcast platforms, and subscribe to the podcast. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if you feel it's worth it, and I know you do. Thanks again for listening to the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast. Until next time, bye.
Yeah.